I, 52F, have always been close to my brother Tom's 49M children, Zach, 24M, Mia, 22F, and Lily, 22F. Our family dynamics have been complicated for as long as I can remember. Growing up, Tom and I were always closer to each other than to our sister Diane, 50F. Maybe it was because we were closer in age, or maybe it was just personalities clicking better. Whatever the reason, that closeness carried over into adulthood. Tom met his wife Rachel right out of college. They were young and in love, married within a year, and had Zach shortly after. The twins, Mia and Lily, came along 2 years later. Rachel was a wonderful mother, always patient and kind. She had this way of making everyone around her feel special. I admired her so much, and we became close friends, as well as sisters-in-law. Tragically, Rachel was diagnosed with an aggressive form of cancer when the kids were still young. Zach was only 6, and the twins were 4. The next 2 years were a blur of hospital visits, chemo treatments, and Tom trying to juggle work, childcare, and being there for his wife. I stepped in to help as much as I could, often staying at their house to watch the kids while Tom took Rachel to appointments. Despite everyone's hopes and prayers, Rachel passed away when Zach was 8 and the twins were 6. Tom was devastated. He tried his best to keep it together for the kids, but I could see him struggling. He started drinking more, just a beer or two at first to help him sleep, but it gradually increased over time. Meanwhile, Diane was dealing with her own family drama. She had married her high school sweetheart, Greg, right after graduation. They had their son, Ryan, 26M, pretty quickly, followed by daughter Chloe, 23F, a few years later. Diane had always been the fun one in our family, the life of the party, always up for a good time. She carried that attitude into her parenting style, priding herself on being a cool mom who was more of a friend to her kids than an authority figure. At first, it seemed to work okay. Ryan and Chloe were outgoing, popular kids, but as they got older, it became clear that they lacked discipline and responsibility. Diane and Greg's marriage was rocky too. They fought constantly, often involving the kids in their arguments. Greg would storm out after a fight, sometimes disappearing for days at a time. I tried to be supportive of both my siblings during this time, but it was challenging. Tom needed help with the kids, especially as his drinking worsened. Diane needed someone to vent to about her marital problems. I felt pulled in multiple directions, trying to be there for everyone. Things came to a head when Zach was 14 and the twins were 12. Tom had been on a particularly bad binge and ended up in the hospital with alcohol poisoning. Child services got involved, concerned about the kids' well-being. The social worker who came to evaluate the situation was sympathetic to Tom's struggles as a widower, but made it clear that the kids needed a stable environment. I was terrified at the thought of Zach, Mia, and Lily being put into foster care. These kids had already lost their mother. They couldn't lose their father and their home too. Without really thinking through the long-term implications, I petitioned for custody. It was a grueling process. Tom was hurt at first, feeling like I was trying to take his kids away. But deep down, I think he knew he wasn't in a place to care for them properly. The court granted me temporary custody, with the stipulation that Tom enter rehab. Those first few months were incredibly difficult. The kids were angry and confused. They acted out at school, fought with each other constantly, and often gave me the silent treatment. I was overwhelmed, trying to balance my job, my new parenting responsibilities, and my own grief over the whole situation. Slowly but surely, though, we started to find our rhythm as a family. Tom completed rehab and has been sober for 10 years now. He's involved in the kids' lives as their uncle, coming over for weekly dinners and attending all their important events. It took time, but he came to appreciate that I had stepped in to keep the kids out of foster care. A few years after I got custody, we decided to make the adoption official. It was a happy day for all of us. I'm so proud of how well Zach, Mia, and Lily have done despite their difficult childhoods. Zach is in his second year of medical school, following in Rachel's footsteps to become a pediatrician. Mia is getting her PhD in psychology, specializing in grief counseling for children. And Lily, always the creative one, runs her own successful bakery. She makes the most amazing cakes, often donating them to the children's hospital where Rachel was treated. Unfortunately, my relationship with Diane has been strained ever since I adopted the kids. She seemed to take it as a personal affront, as if my ability to raise Tom's children somehow reflected poorly on her own parenting. Her kids, Ryan and Chloe, haven't fared as well in adulthood. Ryan still lives at home and can't seem to hold down a job for more than a few months at a time. Chloe bounces between minimum wage jobs and is constantly asking family members for money. Diane's marriage finally fell apart for good about 5 years ago. Greg left her for a younger woman, and Diane fell into a deep depression. She became even more resentful of me and the kids, often making snide comments at family gatherings about how I must think I'm such a great parent. I tried to brush it off, reminding myself that she was hurting and lashing out, but it definitely put a strain on our relationship. Last month, our father passed away unexpectedly from a heart attack. Dad had always been the peacekeeper in the family, smoothing over conflicts between us siblings. Losing him was a huge blow. In the midst of our grief, we had to deal with the practicalities of his estate. Dad had done well for himself over the years, building up a successful construction business before retiring. When the will was read, we discovered that Dad had left a significant inheritance to be split between all of his grandchildren. This included Zach, Mia, and Lily as his adopted grandchildren. He had always treated them the same as Ryan and Chloe, never distinguishing between biological and adopted family members. Diane was furious. She couldn't believe that her kids would have to split the inheritance with my fake kids, as she called them. She tried to contest the will, arguing that adopted grandchildren shouldn't count. The lawyer quickly shut that down, pointing out that the will specifically named all 5 grandchildren. I thought that would be the end of it. Diane had tried to cut the kids out and failed. Surely she would accept the decision and move on. But a few days ago, I got a call from her. She was suddenly being very friendly, asking how the kids were doing and if we could all get together soon as a family. I was immediately suspicious. Diane and I hadn't had a civil conversation in years, and now she wanted to play happy families. Sure enough, she eventually got around to the real reason for her call. She wanted me to talk to the kids about sharing some of their inheritance with Ryan and Chloe. Her argument was that family should help family, and since my kids were doing so well in life, surely they could spare some money for their struggling cousins. I was livid. I told Diane in no uncertain terms that she had some nerve trying to scam money from the kids she had just tried to disinherit. I said the kids' inheritance was none of her business and she needed to back off. She started crying about how unfair it was that my stolen children were getting money while her own kids struggled. I couldn't listen to any more of her manipulative nonsense and hung up on her. Later that day, I got a barrage of angry texts from Ryan and Chloe. Apparently, Diane had told them I was hoarding all the inheritance money for myself and refusing to let the kids share with their real cousins. She had twisted the entire situation, making herself out to be the victim and me, the greedy villain. I was furious that she was spreading lies and trying to turn family against me. After everything we'd been through, after all the years of her snide comments and barely concealed resentment, this was the last straw. I decided I'd had enough of Diane's manipulations. I made a long post on Facebook laying out the whole situation, how Diane had tried to contest the will, then tried to guilt the kids into giving up their money, and was now lying to other family members about it. I included screenshots of some of her nastier text messages as proof. I know airing family drama on social media isn't usually the best move, but I felt like I had no other choice. Diane had been controlling the narrative for too long, and I needed to set the record straight. My post blew up among our family and friends. Most people were appalled at Diane's behavior. She's been getting a lot of backlash. Ryan and Chloe reached out to apologize once they realized their mom had lied to them. They admitted that it wasn't the first time Diane had manipulated them like this, but it was the most blatant example. Diane is furious that I aired our family's dirty laundry publicly. She says I've ruined her reputation and turned her own kids against her. Part of me feels a twinge of guilt for escalating things this way. But mostly I'm just relieved that the truth is out there now. The kids are keeping their full inheritance as they deserve. I've gone low contact with Diane for now, and I'm focusing on supporting Zach, Mia, and Lily through the grief of losing their grandfather. I know this isn't the end of the drama with Diane. She's not the type to let things go easily. But for now, I'm trying to focus on the positive relationships in my life, and not let her negativity bring us down. Update 1. It's been about a week since everything went down with Diane, and I wanted to give an update on the situation. Things have definitely not calmed down in our family. If anything, the drama has only intensified. Diane has been on a non-stop campaign to paint herself as the victim in all of this. She's been calling up every aunt, uncle, and cousin to cry about how I stole her father's money and turned everyone against her. Most of the family isn't buying it, but she has managed to get a few people on her side. Our Aunt Martha, in particular, has really taken up Diane's cause. Martha has always been a bit of a busybody, constantly involving herself in family drama. She and Diane have always been close, bonding over their shared love of gossip and meddling in other people's business. Now Martha has made it her personal mission to fix this situation. She's been harassing me with calls and messages saying I need to apologize to Diane and convince the kids to share the inheritance for the sake of family harmony. I tried explaining the situation calmly at first, reminding her of all the times Diane has caused problems in the family. But Martha just accused me of twisting things and being unforgiving. After the 10th call in 2 days, I finally had to block her number. Meanwhile, Ryan and Chloe have been struggling to come to terms with their mom's true nature. They knew Diane could be selfish and manipulative, but I don't think they realized the extent of it until now. Ryan actually moved out of Diane's house and is staying with a friend while he processes everything. Chloe called me in tears the other day. She confessed that Diane has always pitted her and Ryan against Zach, Mia, and Lily. She would tell them that my kids thought they were better than them, that they looked down on Ryan and Chloe for not being as successful. Chloe said she's starting to realize how much of her resentment towards her cousins was manufactured by Diane. I've been talking to Zach, Mia, and Lily about everything as well. They're hurt that their aunt would try to take advantage of them like this, especially so soon after losing their grandfather. But they're handling it with a lot of maturity. Mia, ever the psychology student, suggested that we all sit down with a family counselor to try to work through some of this drama. She thinks having a neutral third party might help facilitate better communication. I think that's a good idea in theory, but I'm not sure Diane would ever agree to it. Still, we're looking into options. One positive thing to come out of this mess is that it's brought me and the kids even closer. We've had a lot of deep conversations about family, loyalty, and doing the right thing. I've shared more details about their early childhoods, about the difficulties Tom faced after Rachel died, and about my decision to seek custody. They've asked questions they never felt comfortable asking before, and I've done my best to answer honestly. I'm so proud of the adults they've become. Despite all the drama swirling around them, they're focused on how they can use this inheritance to do some good in the world. They've decided they want to use some of the money to set up a scholarship fund in their grandfather's name. The scholarship will be for students who have lost a parent in honor of their own experience and the support they received. I think it's a wonderful way to honor their grandfather's memory and help other kids in similar situations. Diane is still fixated on the money, though. She showed up at my house unannounced yesterday, demanding that I make this right. I refused to let her in and told her she needed to leave. She stood on my porch yelling for nearly an hour, calling me every name in the book and threatening to expose me. I'm not sure what she thinks she can expose. I've been nothing but transparent about the whole situation. Eventually, I had to call the police to remove her from my property. It was honestly pretty scary. Diane has always had a temper, but I've never seen her so unhinged. The officers who responded were very understanding. They suggested I might want to consider getting a restraining order if this behavior continues. I'm hoping it won't come to that, but I'm definitely keeping it as an option if things escalate further. I'm trying to take the high road here, but it's getting harder. Diane seems determined to tear our family apart over this inheritance. I just hope that with time, she'll realize how toxic her behavior has been and make amends. But I'm not holding my breath. For now, I'm focusing on protecting the kids and preserving the positive family relationships we do have. Tom has been a great support through all of this. He's furious with Diane for trying to take advantage of his kids. He's even offered to talk to her, to try to make her see reason. But knowing Diane, I doubt it would do any good. I'm also trying to maintain some sense of normalcy amidst all this chaos. Zach is home from medical school for a few weeks, so we're planning a family dinner this weekend. Lily is experimenting with some new recipes for her bakery and has promised to bring dessert. Mia is going to Skype in from her campus. It'll be nice to have an evening focused on family and food instead of drama and inheritance. I know this update doesn't resolve anything. The situation with Diane is still very much ongoing, but I wanted to let you all know what's been happening and thank you for your support. It means a lot to know that so many people have our backs in this difficult time. Update 2. It's been about a month since my last update, and unfortunately things have only escalated with Diane. I really hoped she would calm down given some time, but she's doubled down on her attempts to get money from the kids. Last week, Diane showed up at Lily's bakery during the morning rush. Lily had just opened the shop about 6 months ago, pouring her heart and soul into creating a warm, welcoming space. She's worked so hard to build up a loyal customer base, often working 12-hour days to make sure everything is perfect. Diane burst in, pushing past the line of customers waiting to order their morning coffee and pastries. She started yelling at Lily, calling her a selfish brat and accusing her of hoarding money that should belong to the whole family. She went on and on about how Lily's success was all due to the opportunities I had given her, and how she owed it to her real family to share the wealth. Lily was mortified. Some of her regular customers tried to intervene, but Diane just got louder. She knocked over a display of cupcakes, sending frosting and cake flying everywhere. Lily had to call the police to remove Diane from the premises. The incident really shook Lily up. She's always been the most sensitive of the 3 kids, and confrontation like this is her worst nightmare. She's considering hiring security for the bakery now, which breaks my heart. A small local bakery shouldn't need a security guard, but Lily doesn't feel safe without one now. A few days after the bakery incident, Diane somehow got hold of Zach's school email address. She sent a long, rambling message to his entire class listserv. The email accused Zach of stealing from family and urged his classmates to report him for financial elder abuse. She claimed that Zach had manipulated his grandfather into leaving him money, taking advantage of an old man's poor health. The school administration got involved and Zach had to deal with a lot of awkward questions. He was terrified that this could impact his standing at medical school. Thankfully, the dean was understanding once Zach explained the situation. They've blocked Diane's email address from the school system, but Zach is still worried about the impression this has left on his classmates and professors. Mia has mostly been able to avoid Diane's attacks since she lives further away for grad school. But Diane did try to contact Mia's thesis advisor to complain that Mia was unethically using inheritance money to fund her research. She insinuated that Mia had obtained the money through coercion and that her research should be scrutinized for ethical violations. Luckily, the advisor recognized it as a baseless accusation and didn't take it seriously. Still, Mia was embarrassed and worried about potential damage to her academic reputation. I've had enough at this point. Diane's behavior has gone from annoying to actively harmful. She's not just bothering us anymore. She's actively trying to damage the kids' careers and reputations. I met with a lawyer last week, and we're moving forward with a restraining order against Diane to protect me and the kids. I hate that it's come to this, but she's left us no choice. The rest of the family is pretty much fed up with Diane as well. Even Ryan and Chloe have cut contact with her after she kept pressuring them to confront their cousins about the money. They're both in therapy now, trying to work through the damage Diane's narcissism has done over the years. Ryan told me that Diane had always made them feel like they weren't good enough, constantly comparing them unfavorably to Zach, Mia, and Lily. It's sad to think about how much hurt she's caused her own children. Aunt Martha is still firmly on Team Diane, though. She's been posting vague statements on Facebook about greedy family members tearing us apart, and how blood is thicker than water. I considered responding, but ultimately decided it wasn't worth engaging. Those who know the real story aren't fooled by her dramatics. I'm working on acceptance that this rift with Diane may be permanent. It's sad to think that we'll never have the kind of sibling relationship I always hoped for. But I have to prioritize protecting the kids. They've been through so much already and don't deserve this added stress. We're planning a family vacation next month to get away from all the drama for a bit. Just me, the kids, and Tom. We're renting a cabin by a lake, somewhere peaceful where we can relax and reconnect. I think the change of scenery will do us all some good. It'll be nice to focus on positive family memories instead of all this negativity. I'm trying to stay hopeful that the situation will eventually resolve itself, but I'm also preparing for the possibility that Diane's behavior may continue or even escalate. We're documenting everything in case we need to take further legal action. It's not how I ever imagined our family dynamics playing out, but we'll get through it together. Update 3. It's been about 2 months since my last update. The restraining order against Diane was granted, which has helped keep her physical distance at least. She's no longer able to show up at our homes or workplaces, which has been a relief. However, she's still finding ways to lash out and cause problems. Diane has now taken to social media to continue her smear campaign against me and the kids. She's been posting long, dramatic rants full of lies and wild accusations. She claims that I've brainwashed the kids against her, that I'm withholding money that rightfully belongs to her children, and that I've somehow managed to turn the entire family against her. Most people see through it, but it's still upsetting to have our family business aired so publicly. Some distant relatives and old family friends who don't know the full story have been reaching out, asking what's going on. It's exhausting having to explain the situation over and over again. I'm trying to take the high road and not engage in a public back and forth with Diane, but it's hard to. Stay silent when she's spreading such blatant lies. The latest development is that Diane is now threatening legal action. She's claiming that our father wasn't of sound mind when he made his will, and that I somehow manipulated him into including the kids. It's complete nonsense, of course. Dad was sharp as a tack until the day he died. He was still actively involved in community organizations and even taking classes at the local community college. There's plenty of evidence that he was fully competent when he made his will. But now we're having to deal with lawyers to defend against her baseless claims. It's stressful and expensive, not to mention emotionally draining. The kids are worried about having to testify in court if it comes to that. They don't want to speak ill of their aunt, despite everything she's done. The one silver lining in all this is how it's brought the rest of us closer together. Zach, Mia, and Lily have been incredibly supportive of each other through all of Diane's attacks. They formed a group chat where they share updates and words of encouragement. It's heartwarming to see how they've banded together in the face of adversity. Ryan and Chloe have really stepped up too, even offering to testify against their mom if it comes to that. They've been sharing stories with their cousins about growing up with Diane, and I think it's been healing for all of them to realize they're not alone in their experiences. Ryan has even started talking about going back to school, inspired by his cousin's success, and determined to prove his mom wrong about him. For now, we're trying to focus on the positive and not let Diane's antics dominate our lives. Zach just got engaged to his longtime girlfriend, and we're excited to start planning the wedding. Mia successfully defended her dissertation, and will be graduating with her PhD next month. Lily's bakery is thriving despite Diane's attempts to sabotage it. The community really rallied around her after the incident, and she's had more business than ever. I'm coming to terms with the fact that my relationship with Diane is likely permanently damaged, but I have no regrets about standing up to her manipulations and protecting the kids. Family is about love and support, not blood or money. I'm grateful for the true family I have in Zach, Mia, Lily, and even Ryan and Chloe now. That's what I'm choosing to focus on moving forward. As for the inheritance, the kids have decided to move forward with their plan for the scholarship fund. They're working with a lawyer to set it up properly, ensuring that Diane can't touch it or interfere in any way. It feels good to know that something positive will come out of all this drama, that other kids who've lost parents will get help pursuing their dreams. I hope that someday Diane will realize the harm she's caused and seek help. But I'm not holding my breath. For now, we'll continue to live our lives, support each other, and hope that the legal issues will be resolved quickly. Thank you all for your continued support through this difficult time.